Welcome back to Relax Radio, Relaks. This is me, Nick, keeping you company and keeping you entertained. With what is going on in the UK. There's a lot of these things, right now currently happening. What with, the Kent Council and child migrant legal cases are threatening the Home Secretary. And then we got, the EU warning the UK over Irish sea border good checks. Delays, and doctors also urging delays to England GP data scrape. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of things, in discussion these past few days. It's just crazy with the amount of things going on right now in the UK. And if you're wondering what this is, my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. only here on Real Talk. And hey, if you want to get in touch with me, you want to, hit me up and let me know what your thoughts are on anything. Well, the numbers to do so are 07852 473 473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. And also, don't forget, you can download us from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to carry us all day, every day. And, you can pretty much check us out on all the social media pages. We go on Facebook, we go on Instagram, we go on to Twitter as well, with the latest tweets that is happening across the UK and around the world as well. So make sure you guys keep it locked right here on Relax Radio. And with that, getting back to the topic at hand, though, there is a lot of these things going on, and one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is how this whole Brexit situation in the UK. So the EU is warning the UK over Irish sea border goods checks. That's right. There's a lot of these talks going on, and they're discussing, there's been a lot of tensions for the past couple of months. In case you guys are wondering what this is all about, it's all got to do with the Brexit situation. And right now, the EU has been warning the UK not to take any further unilateral action to delay the post-Brexit checks on these products. Most of these products that are entering Northern Ireland from Britain. So the warning came from the European Council's vice president. In case you guys are wondering, this was something that happened a couple of months ago, actually, where the UK did their own decisions and they made their own choices, and they unilaterally made a decision about putting on these border checks and making it tighter border checks. So this is one of the reasons why the EU right now is talking about this, and they are, totally against it. And Mara Sukovic from the EU said, "We'll not be shy in reacting swiftly, firmly, and resolutely to ensure that the UK abides by its international law obligations." So it comes as, the two sides are preparing to meet, to assess their possible simplifications of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So this protocol, in case you are curious and you're intrigued about what this exactly stands, well, it's this. Essentially, it is the part of the Brexit deal that created a trade border in the Irish Sea in order to prevent goods checks along the Irish land border. So yeah, the 2019 deal kept Northern Ireland in the EU single market for goods and means EU custom rules are now enforced at its ports. So this is, just another thing that is being addressed right now. And with all of these things, it's being considered. And it's also agreed that the checks would be phased in through the use of so-called grace periods. So yeah, but earlier this year, the UK unilaterally extended and enhanced some of these grace periods. So yeah, the EU started legal actions as a result. So it's because of this, the EU right now is making, the UK right now is facing a lot of backlash from the EU with regards to this, because they increased their border checks they increased the whole grace period. That is against the standard, the standard deal that they made between the EU and the UK. So this is, a complete breach of it. So this is the reason why the EU right now is taking legal action as a result. So the next phase of all of this, there's going to be new controls. There's going to be affecting, all of these products that are coming into the UK, like sausages, mints, and all of this, are due to begin next month after the grace period overseeing them ends. So the whole plan is to get all these things into the UK. So by the 1st of July, the products will be prohibited from moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, or the grace period will be extended either by agreement or unilaterally by the UK. So in an article, there was also a recent article, where this certain writer was writing about these things, and he was saying, if the UK takes further unilateral action over the coming weeks, the EU will not be shy in reacting swiftly, firmly, and resolutely to ensure that the UK abides by its international law obligations. So, it's with regards to this, the reason why they did all of these things is the UK's reasoning behind all of this, essentially, is them telling that, a lot of these businesses can't cope with the products that are coming in. They need a certain grace period before they can even bring the products into the country. And this is one of the reasons why they are holding it back. And that is of concern. That's a problem right there. So these sausages, chicken nuggets, that a lot of people have enjoyed the right, that is passing across the UK, and you get in a lot of these fast food stores. Well, their legal passage from Great Britain to Northern Ireland is assured, but this is due to end in a little over 3 weeks. So Brexit deals include an agreement that some products would be checked within the UK when moved from Britain to Northern Ireland. As there's going to be an alternative to a harder border with the Republic. So this is just some of the things that is being considered and they're being talked about right now. And the movement of these goods, especially all of these chilled meats, are going to be banned. Although there will be a grace period that expires at the end of this month. So the government regards, the prospect of blocking these free movement of these sausages within the UK as ridiculous, and has claimed the European Union is acting with what it is called legal purism. So the EU is threatening to act. They are threatening to sue and make legal issues, especially to ensure that the UK abides by all the laws that they have laid down and that they've agreed upon. This is also because the UK cannot just make these decisions on a whim. That's the issue right now. The issue the EU is having with the UK is that they're making these decisions on a whim. So the British government agreed to the protocol back in late 2019, but there have been some problems since it came into operation in January this year. And the UK is now looking for changes. They're looking for alternatives to this deal. And George Eustace, the UK's agriculture minister, described the chilled meats issues as bonkers, apparently, in his own words. And on Monday, the UK's Brexit Minister Lord Frost admitted the UK had underestimated the effects of the protocol on goods movements to Northern Ireland. So in this article, also they were discussing about how they accused the EU of legal purism and called for pragmatic solution between friends, not the imposition of one side's rules on to the other. So there's also these talks regarding all these things. And with one of that also, it's in addition to the vaccine rollout as well, and there was fears in the EU that the vaccine rollout would be delayed because of all these situations, and that is also a big concern, and they were really worried about this. The EU countries were worried about this. However, there was recently, on Tuesday, Mr. Sefcovic denied that the EU has been intransigent over the protocols. So, and he went on to say, the European Commission Vice President wrote that far from being inflexible, the EU has shown from the very beginning that we are willing to find creative solutions when required. So he said that the continued availability of medicines to Northern Ireland is among those tailor-made flexible solutions, something that they take very seriously and personally in this time of the pandemic. So the Vice President went on to say, that the EU's team was working hard to find ways to ensure that the protocol is implemented in a way that both facilitates the everyday life of Northern Ireland's communities and preserves the integrity of the EU's single market. And he stressed, the need for the UK's and EU cooperation to implement the existing 2019 deal, saying we should not waste our time turning the tables and washing our hands of an agreement that we shaped, agreed, and signed jointly. And, with these kind of things, there's going to be concessions as well because of this. So the EU-UK Joint Committee is due to meet in London, on Wednesday. I apologize, but they're going to be meeting on Wednesday next week to review the progress on the technical talks that have been examining ways to simplify the Northern Ireland Protocol. So it is understood that these UK officials believe there will be significant progress in only one of about 32 problems in these areas. So each side has accused the other of a lack of a real engagement. So when it comes to all of this, there is this regard, there is these talks that is going on, and the EU is saying that, hey, the UK is not listening. I mean, they're doing what they want to do, and it's not going to work. That's not fair. But the UK is also arguing, saying, you're imposing these rules, and it is restricting us as well. So the EU right now is preparing to offer a number of concessions that would include ensuring uninterrupted supply from medicines destined for Northern Ireland that have been authorized by the UK, flexibility on steel quotas and tariffs, which have affected Northern Ireland's in a way that was not anticipated in the protocol, a pet passport exemption for guide dogs entering Northern Ireland from Great Britain, and an easing of livestock rules to avoid multiple tagging. So these EU officials also, they've been talking about this, and they're saying, okay, they went on to say that the EU's patience with the UK was wearing thin, and there is rising tension. There's a lot of tension, with regards to this. And they warned that there could be trade sanctions if there is no breakthrough on implementing the protocol by next month. So you can see that this is going on. This is something that is being addressed, and they require solutions instead of this. So ahead of the Wednesday meetings, Northern Ireland's business groups urged the UK and the EU to find immediate solutions to the Irish border sea trading problems. So, and they went on to say, the Northern Ireland's Business Brexit Working Group, a coalition of organizations and companies, said we cannot afford another missed opportunity at the Joint Committee. And we continue to hear that the UK and the EU are committed to their assertions in this very, to follow through with these protocols, and that they're determined that the application of this protocol should impact as little as possible on everyday life of communities in both Ireland and Northern Ireland. But it is undoubtedly having an effect and will increasingly do so. More stringent requirements come in from October. So this is, just with regards to all these things that is being addressed and being talked about. A lot of them are, with regards to how the UK is behaving, and they're making their own decisions, choices, and people want them to, come to an agreement, because if this does not come to an agreement, what will happen is the UK will also suffer. There will be trade sanctions, and that is going to spell a lot of big problems for us in the upcoming future. And that's something we want to avoid, especially right now, even though right now with the rocky trade deals that we have with Australia, we're trying to get into the Indo-Pacific transatlantic parts. But, that's just not going to happen anytime soon if we get trade sanctions from the EU. And the working group, this working group, they also added that there will be opportunities under the protocol given the access it gives to both the UK and the EU markets, but trade frictions. There's going to be tensions, there's going to be frictions, they need to be removed for the economy as a whole. Because right now, like I said, problem is not a one-sided thing, but it's more like a two-sided thing, and there's all sorts of issues going on, and that is something that they want to address. So the Northern Ireland Trade Union representative body, the ICTU, said a space has to be created that acknowledges the practical problems with the protocol while also respecting the integrity of EU single market. So it said, the concerns of many within the union's community around the practical issues with the protocol need to be respected, considered, and even addressed. So these are just, some of the things that they're saying that, this can't keep going on for a very long time. We need things to change. We need a change in pace right now. We need to find solutions to all of this tension right now, because this is rising. It's going to be a big problem in the foreseeable future, and we want to prevent that. So a lot of these businesses are trying to get they're pleading, and they're urging with their governments to reconsider and make sure that this protocol, this trade deal protocol, is kept intact. So let's see, you guys can always tell us what you think about this, and if you have any opinions on that matter, well, hit me up and let me know. 07852-473-473. Those are the numbers. And with that, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" Hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. Got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, mainly one, because they're nice and bright. So they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. But that's very important, right? Because you want cars,
Very important. And also, like, people see me in, like, calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on air, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" Hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. You look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. It is Relaks because we don't believe in that negativity. It's all about that positivity right here on Relax Radio. That's right. We're trying to keep it positive. We're trying to talk about all things that is going on across the UK right now. And one of the things that is going on is the Greater Manchester and Lancaster in testing and vaccine push. That's something that they are doing right now there in these specific areas, that I've named just now. They are going to be starting off with getting the people vaccinated there. And the coronavirus tests and vaccines are being stepped up in these areas of northwest England to try to deal with the rising cases of this Delta variant. Yeah, Delta variant is here, and it is not as small as we initially thought. And it's a big problem right now. And there's a lot of these things going on. And with that regards, though, the UK is making its steps, and they're making big steps with regards to this. And similar tactics to those successfully used in Bolton will be implemented right here across the whole of Greater Manchester and Lancashire. So the local leaders have asked for extra jabs to vaccinate everyone even faster. So a lot of the local authorities are asking, and they're pleading with the government right now to make sure that they get vaccines that are required right now to get the vaccination rate even faster, even more faster, even up. So that's something that we need right now. And that's something that we are, they are expecting from the government. So this comes as a debate continues about whether England's next lockdown easing will go ahead as planned on the 21st of June. And that is of concern. People want to know, okay, will we actually have will the lockdown actually be will the easing of the lockdown rather be irreversible? That is something that a lot of people are asking themselves right now, and the government is also questioning their decisions, and they're asking whether it is a good idea to even be opening it right now on the 21st of June. Does it sound like it's safe? Because there is a rising number of cases. So these are solid facts right here, staring at them in the face, and they better make that decision quick. So there is less than a week until the government is due to announce its decision about reopening date. So at the weekend, Health Secretary Matt Hancock said the Delta variant, first discovered in India, was 40% more transmissible than the previously dominant virus strain, and that is also known as the Alpha strain or the Kent variant that was first discovered also in Kent, in the area of Kent. And because of this, there's also after the whole COVID hotspot, Bolton saw a drop in infection rates through a vaccine push and extra testing. So the government is now doing the same elsewhere in the region where there are cases rising. So that includes the Greater Manchester area. But the mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, has called on the government to go further and said vaccine supplies should be given to the area earlier than planned. So they are talking about this. Local authorities, like the mayor right now, is saying, hey, we need to get vaccines even faster here. We need to deploy these vaccines faster than the plan was. So the need is now. It is spreading again in places like this. So vaccination program can have the most impact right now. But then that's also very arguable when you think about it. I mean, the number of cases also are rising in these particular areas. So they want to know, okay, who are the people who are getting affected? How are we going to deploy these vaccines? And he wants more. Right now he's saying, okay, we need to prioritize. We need to make sure that we get the vaccine rolling out in these specific areas. And he went on to say, I'm not asking, it's not about asking for more supplies than we are entitled to, but it's about bringing forward our supplies so we can make a bigger difference. And the committee's secretary, Robert Jenerick, said that the government would continue to follow the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization's advice with the vaccine program based on age rather than on geography. So he went on and he said that there was a significant rise in COVID cases, and the government was doing things to help people get vaccinated as soon as possible in these regions. So this includes using the military for logistics and vaccine buses. So right now they're using all the resources that they can. They are doing the best that they can. They are trying to make sure that we can get the people going. We can get this going because this is a problem that we need to avoid. And we have to prevent all of these things is what they are trying to say right now. And with that expectation, there's a lot going on. There's a lot at stake. So some health officials in the area have already urged over 18s to book jabs ahead of England's current timetables. So across England, there was a surge in demand for these vaccines on Tuesday morning as people aged 29 to 25 were invited to book their vaccines. So this is what was these data were revealed by the NHS England, and it was Glastonbury style rush for these appointments, said NHS England's boss Sir Simon Stevens, with more than 1,600 jabs being booked every minute. So it's always expected, it was always expected these cases would rise up at this stage. It was expected. I mean, we kind of had it coming. We know, okay, this is the scene right now. This is the case. The case is when there's going to be more and more cases rising, and we need to find a way to, to combat that. And to do that, well, we'd have to consider what are we going to do? How are we going to be doing this? And right now, the cases are rising. Like you can see, the first time the Delta variant came in, before that, when the first variant was discovered, which was the Kent variant, we weren't prepared. We didn't really think things through. We didn't even know. We didn't have enough information or data backed, scientific data backed, essentially, to know what this virus could do. But now we do. Now we're with more information. So the government should start to act more swiftly when it comes to matters of this pandemic and transmission. So I don't really see what they're going to be doing about this, and they're still following the protocols that are given, the guidelines that are given by the JCVI. Well, we can see another rise in cases, so we need to prevent that. And like I said, these rising of cases were expected, though, because ever since people were allowed to mix indoors and they were allowed, this caused the virus to spread even more. So what's concerning the government scientists is how quickly these cases are going up, and how all of that has begun to translate into hospital admissions. So that's also of concern. That is also a big problem that is also being discussed, and they want to know, okay, what is going on? And the increase in these hospital admissions is only really apparent in the Northwest so far. So more than a third of admissions since the start of June have been in that region. So in that particular region, well, they are facing a lot more problems than the most of us. I mean, if you look at the things and the situation across the UK right now, well, it is these particular regions that are having the variant so far, and the spread of the variant is more significant in these particular places. But then the government also is concerned. A lot of scientists are also concerned, and they're saying, okay, listen, this virus is spreading, and it's causing more hospital admissions. And next thing we're going to get a surge of cases, and a lot of people will come back to the hospital, and we want to prevent that. How are we going to prevent that is the question. So there is a lot of these talks, they say that this is going to be happening in the hopes that the vaccination program will lead to a slower increase in these infections, and hospital admissions would be flatter. But the Delta variant appears to have complicated the matters, and so the alarm bells are ringing, and they're beginning to ring, and you can hear them ringing, and there's just a lot of it's gonna be a lot of problems. It's gonna rise for concerns right now. You can see that it is gonna be stacking up. The cases are gonna stack up if the government doesn't act quickly. And it's still the early days, though. That's what people are saying right now. It's still the very beginning of it. But there is hope that this rise could tail off. There is the possibility that it's just a sudden surge of cases, and then it's just going to drop down. That is what they're saying, given the immunity of the whole of the population in the UK have built up. And what's been seen in the Northwest does not translate to other parts of the country. That's what they're saying. And as painful as it is, the message from scientists is that a delay in fully opening up allows more time to gather data and understand what is happening and to vaccinate more people. So a slowing of the progress on the roadmap rather than an ending of it. And that is what they're trying to say. And this is, you have to understand, it is frustrating. It sounds irritating to even be thinking about it, but you have to do this. We have to do this. We have to make sure, even scientists are saying this, there is a reason. They need more data. They need to gather more data. There needs to be more research done before we can completely open the country back to normalcy, because we can't reach normal if there are still cases in these northwestern areas. There's going to be a problem, because what is going to happen is that's going to translate into more cases. The more cases means more hospital admissions in the future, and we want to avoid all of that, and we might even fall back into another lockdown, and that's something that we want to avoid as much as possible. And Mr. Burnham also urged the people, to take up their second COVID jab. As he said, it doubled the protection and against this whole Delta variant, while Mr. Jenrick said the COVID second dose was very, very important. And Lancaster's Public Health Director, Dr. Shakti, said that the proportion of people double vaccinated could vary from 20% to 70%, depending on their particular areas. And he also said the focus locally was to make testing become part of our normal routine, as well as bringing vaccines closer to people through walk-in centers and pop-up clinics. So Greater Manchester and Lancashire accounts for 90% of the areas with the highest rate of infections. And right now in England, these are the places that has the most infection rates. And this is all according to last week's data. People in those areas are also being advised to meet outside rather than inside. So that's the whole point, is ventilation. You get ventilation. You avoid traveling in and out of these affected areas because, you don't want to risk the spread, and you don't want to be risking getting this, this virus. And these are just, some of the things. So the local health authorities also are talking about these things as well. And with that regards, there's a lot of these talks going on, and local health directors also are going to reintroduce face covering in school communal areas if they want to, although the government is issuing guidance to ask people to conduct themselves sensibly in the Greater Manchester area. And in the Lancashire area, Mr. Jerick said that there was no plans to introduce local lockdowns, saying we don't have any plan to return to the regional or the tired approach that we saw last autumn. And Mr. Burnham said that while people did not have to cancel their plans, well, they should be sensible and take precautions such as isolating outside where possible and minimizing travel as much as possible. I mean, we're going to get back into this, with all these things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about how the UK right now is planning to postpone, the easing of the restrictions. So let's see how that goes. But before that, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me. Why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much has changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no, if that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Well, you didn't do very well. And they get upset, And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young. Well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me. Why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well in the UK. You get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid, I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. That's right. This is me, Nick, keeping you guys company and in touch with what is going on with the current affairs in the UK. That's right. We're talking about all these things that is going with that matter. Like I said, it is with relation, and you can see that right now the plan to get the country out of the lockdown is not really working out for a lot of people. I mean, right now the government is making their plans and they are saying, okay, because of the number of cases, are we going to be opening up the country? Well, the next big day of lockdown easing in England is scheduled for the 21st of June. So the 21st of June is just a couple of weeks more away. And they said, we won't be seeing all of this remaining rules lifted, meaning that we are not going to be required to wear any of these masks. And this is just another thing. And they're saying, okay, they're working from home guidance, nightclubs are reopening, and no limits on numbers at weddings, concert, and these other large events. And the question the government is asking is right now, is it a good idea? Should we be doing this? And well, according to Chancellor Rishi Sunak, she is willing to accept a day of up to 4 weeks to the reopening. So the paper, and they are all citing, a Whitehall source saying Mr. Sunak was more concerned that when rules are lifted, it will be irreversible. So that is what they want to do. Like I said, the road to the lockdown, easing of the lockdown in the country, that we want to make it irreversible. That is what Boris Johnson is saying. But with the rise in the Delta cases right now, in the face of this whole new cases coming up in the northern western areas, like in Greater Manchester, and then we got areas in the Bolton area. The question remains: are we gonna have to push back the dates? Are we gonna have to, sacrifice the day that we promised the whole country? Because people are sick of it. I mean, it's been more than a year, and sources in the Treasury have said though that the government's support packages for workers, such as furlough schemes, already extended beyond the June date in case there needed to be a delay. So in a way, the government is also prepared, and they are planned for this. They have their backup plans, and they know, okay, this is something that we are prepared. We foresaw something like this, that if something like this did happen, well, we have a couple of months where we can push the date back for the furlough scheme. So right now, though, the cabinet officer, Minister Michael Gove, has said that he's told his colleagues that if he were a betting man, he would bet on a relaxation of rules on the 21st of June. So the government has repeatedly said it will look carefully at the data before it came to a final decision on the 14th of June. So right now, I say the government should make their decisions. They should make wise decisions, in my opinion, because you have to understand this could spell disaster. It could be the form of disaster, and we don't even know it. And if the government, doesn't take it seriously, well, there's going to be problems with that regards. There's going to be a number of more cases. There's going to be a spike in cases, and that is something that we should prevent, and we're trying to avoid as much as possible. And like I said, this is all the government's choice. This is the whole government's decision on this. What they're going to do will be affecting all of this. So the Conservative MP, Sir Charles Walker, a London skeptic, has warned that there will be a huge wave of disappointment if the country did not open up on the 21st of June. And they went on to say that the delay could be between 2 weeks, a month, but they think the real issue here is if we can't open up the economy at the height of the summer, then I think we are facing a very real prospect of more forced lockdowns in the autumn. And they just they can't foresee how that's going to be avoided. How are we going to be avoiding something like that? So right now, the goalposts, as they've always said, it's well-worn cliche, are moving. So it's not just in the Northwest that the Army has been providing support. With a lot of these personnel and Army recruits also that are going, they're helping with the vaccination program in Lothian and Lanarkshire in Scotland as well. So meanwhile, the surge testing has been implemented in several areas where rises in these cases are being driven by the Delta variant. So, there is also a lot of testing. There's also a lot of personnel going and visiting these areas in these vaccination centers, vaccination hubs, and they're getting themselves, they're helping out as much as they can to, lighten the burden, I guess, of this whole COVID situation. So the surge testing had been implemented in several areas where these cases are rising. And yeah, one of that is the Delta variant, including in Kingston in southwest of London. So yeah, that's just, some of the places that they want to do. They are doing a lot of these testing as well. And on Tuesday, another 6,048 new cases in UK were announced, and a further 13 deaths as well. So more than 53% of the adults have had 2 vaccination doses, meaning they are now fully vaccinated. So this is just, and with regards to all these things, we got to understand that right now the UK is in a situation and they're walking on a tightrope, and they have to make sure that they do the smart choices and the smart decisions, because this will bear repercussions, and it will be a lot more than we can imagine. Because right now, like I said, the cases are rising, and if we don't make sure, if the government doesn't make sure, they push the date back for all of these, restriction easing, well, we can be faced with another spike, and there will be more cases, possibly it's cases, the number of cases like we've seen during the start of the year, during January, where we had a lot of cases, thousands of cases, and thousands of hospital admissions. And that is something that we want to prevent as much as possible. But the COVID cases also, recorded, if you check places like in Scotland, recorded cases in children reach their highest level as well. So there has been a lot of this, going on around, and it shows that that this is just not something that is feasible. We shouldn't be, relaxing, and just because, people are frustrated or annoyed, we have to understand that even then there are a rising number of cases, and this is going to be a problem with the children. With children also, this is rising. So recorded right now, the COVID infections amongst the children are at the highest they've been during the outbreak in Scotland only. So weekly infections in the 0 to 14-year-olds reached 1,064 cases on the 7th of June. That is higher than the peak in early January. And this is all according to the Public Health of Scotland. While there's no evidence that children are becoming seriously ill, well, there has been growing numbers of pupils that are off of school. And Nicola Sturgeon has said that Scotland would move quickly to vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds if recommended by the regulator. And the number of cases among the youngest age group is rising rapidly. So their cases are rising, and it's not as small as we initially thought. And the numbers is rising, especially having seen a 4-fold increase since May. So the rising number of cases is concerning. And despite the rise, medics have been saying that children's wardens are not seeing any significant rise in the admissions, though. So this is due to COVID, and they said there is no reason for parents to worry. However, a number of schools have had to shut temporarily because of pupils testing positive. With a lot of these, they're announcing a lot of these cases across the UK, and a lot of these schools as well are closing down. So although most of the schools are open, growing numbers of students have been asked to stay at home because they are possible contacts of people who have been tested positive. So this has all got to do with the whole trace testing scenario right here. So the government is telling them and urging. A lot of these schools also are urging students who've had contact with people who were positive to stay at home for the meantime until further notice. So there is the provisional figures, though, has been showing that 15,687 children, were absent for COVID-related reasons at the end of last week. So with overall attendance dropping down to 87%, so that is the lowest percentage of students returning after Easter. So that just shows numbers of cases are also rising. So we have to make sure, the government has to come up with a proper plan that can say, okay, look, right now we'll have to push this back in a couple of months because we are not quite sure whether we are there yet, whether we should even open the country. Although we've been saying this, we've been pushing for this date, but is it really smart decision? That's what we've got to know. Is that a real smart decision that we are doing? Should we be opening it right now? And the size of the population in each of these groups, that of the children under the ages of 15, of the cases that have been coming up and the total numbers is factored in. And it is clear that the infection rates are considerably higher amongst these young adults and older teenagers. So on the 7th of June, the weekly cases rates among people in their early 20s was 277 per 100,000. So that just goes to show there's 277 cases per 100,000 people. So older teenagers also had the second highest rate at 228 while it was compared with the children who had just 123 cases. So that just shows, the figure shows that these are the number of people in 100,000 children. Well, this many children are getting infected. So what is the clear data? Is whether there's any clear data about this is it begs the question: are there any more data when it comes to the accuracy of this whole thing? So more than half of Scotland's adult population now has had both doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. So should children actually be vaccinated? Should that be a priority? So a lot of these UK regulators have approved the use of the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine in children aged between 12 and 15. And they're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's been a lot of critics also against this. A lot of people who've been opposed to this and saying, since we have vaccines and we're giving it to children who are less likely to develop any kind of illness, why not give it to people across the other parts of the world? Middle-income countries, poor countries. These are countries that really, really require these vaccines at the moment. This is very important for these countries as well. Why are we giving it to children instead of these adults who are struggling in these countries? So the Scottish government now is awaiting further advice. They're looking for advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization on whether it should begin vaccinating their children. So on Tuesday, the First Minister said the focus remained on getting all the adults vaccinated. But if the JCVI recommends vaccination of children, she said Scotland would move as quickly as possible to implement the advice. So yeah, we're going to be getting back on this and a lot more as we go along in the show. Make sure you guys keep it locked right here on Relaks Radio. And taking a look at your time right now, it is 4:03. Good evening.
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. Okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to Relax Radio, Relaks. We were talking about things going on in the UK, and this is Real Talk with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. You were talking about all that is going on right now, and there's a lot of these things that is happening right now in that regards that there is a lot going on, and like I said. Right now, UK regulators have been approving the use of the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccines in children between the ages of 12 and 15. So if you are having children between these ages, well, right now the UK regulator has been approving this. And the Scottish government, for instance, we were talking about Scotland, how a lot of their children are getting vaccinated, hopefully in the future. So the Scottish government is awaiting advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization on whether it should begin vaccinating children. So on Tuesday, the First Minister said the focus remained on getting all adults vaccinated. But if the JCVI recommends vaccination of children, well, she said that Scotland would move as fast and quickly as possible to implement this advice. So the Scottish government advisor, Professor Davy Sridhar, had backed the rollout of the vaccine to those over the age of 12 right now. So they're talking, speaking on all of these things earlier this week, she also went on to say that if we want schools to continue without disruption in the autumn and lift restrictions so children can have a normal experience, we need to vaccinate them. And if we wait and watch for the evidence, it will be too late in the next few weeks. So we have the supplies. It's not a large amount. It's a couple of million doses to cover that population of 12 plus children. So given that we know, children can transmit, where we are going to see problems is not going to be in care homes. It's not going to be in hospitals. Where we're going to see problems, it's going to be in schools. So that's the biggest issue. That's the biggest concern, actually. When it comes to this regards, the problem is not in these particular areas, but we're going to be facing these big problems when it comes to schools and all of that. That's where it's going to be transmitted the most. So another leading health expert, Professor Linda Bald, has said she really welcomes plans to vaccinate teenagers, but said completing the adult age groups must come first. And she said that they will be the next in line after we issue vaccinations to all the 18 and 29-year-olds. And as Wales has already done, and I really welcome the vaccine program for the teenagers. And, they say over 2 million teenagers in the U.S. have already received the vaccine, and the trials suggest it's safe. So let's hope this all goes well. So with world leaders facing calls to do more to share vaccines internationally, well, there is, some have argued a greater priority should be driving down infections globally, which could be the source of new variants. So they're saying, okay, look, listen, this is not the same. This is not the scenario. Scenario is we have to make sure that us as citizens of the world and all of that, we have to make sure that we fight this on a global scale, not just locally, not just the EU or not just the UK, but a global thing. It should be a global scale thing where we help all the other countries so we can cut down on the possibility of these new emerging variants popping up. So we want to avoid all these things. So world leaders have been talking about all these things. So Professor Adam Finn, a member of the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, has said if enough immunity was built up through the adult vaccination program, then vaccinating children may not be justified. So he said the issue is not that there's a problem doing it, it's just a question of whether we need to do it, given the very low incidence of these serious illnesses in children and the fact that we are achieving so much with the adult program at the moment with very high coverage. So they're asking us, is this really needed? Is this really required? Is this really a good idea to get the children vaccinated? Like, should we even be doing this? I mean, if you think about it, if we get all the adults vaccinated first, there's not going to be any problem, because end of the day, it's not the children who are going to get sick. It's the adults over this particular age group. And if this turns out that children can be indirectly protected by the immunity that we induce in adults, then it's clear there's no justification for all this immunizing, or at least immunizing all of the population. Or like, why even do this? That's what they're asking. Why even bother to do this if we can get the whole of our people, the adults, the adult population vaccinated? That's very important, because if we can get them vaccinated, we can just cut down on the number of people, the number of children who will need to get vaccinations. So it's really pointless, and they don't really see the whole purpose in all of this, and they want to know, okay, is this really a good idea? Should we really be doing this? And yeah, this also begs the other questions as well. There's a lot of these talks going on. And yeah, with matters on that though, we are also talking about all things that is going on right now in the UK and all around the world. So these issues that are being discussed, like I said, you might not think it's such a big deal. Well, there is also other issues, with relations to this whole COVID situation, and that is, what do we know about the global youth unemployment? There's a lot of youth outside there actually, who are currently not having any kind of jobs, and this is also a it's very concerning. I mean, when we say the youth is the future, and you are the future, how can we say that when they don't have jobs themselves? So a lot of these countries are facing, the world's unemployment is higher for the people under the ages of 25. So unemployment rate amongst the young people was 14.6% in 2020, according to the ILO, and that is the International Labor Organization. So a lot of these youths, all right, has been for the past 18 months, there's been a lot of this unprecedented scale of the people getting, this COVID situation. There's a lot of youths struggling in this sort of limbo, where they don't really have jobs anymore, and they do have some kind of job, but it's not really worthwhile. It's not really, that can help you, move forward. So there's been a lot of this crisis going on, and right now young people are staying out of the job market. And if you look at it, the biggest jumps in youth unemployment have occurred in what economists describe as middle-income countries, such as Argentina, Brazil, South Africa, and Peru. So middle-income economies were strong enough to have a thriving hospitality industry before the pandemic, for example. However, they often lack the economic resilience to go into extended lockdowns or provide generous support packages to businesses and workers. So, these are just, some of the places, like right now, countries across the world are facing this whole unemployment problems as well. So the youth, especially when it comes to the youth, a lot of them are going through all of this, and there's been a fall. Many countries have seen a fall in young women at work as well. That is also of big concern. So right now, a lot of these children, a lot of these young adults, rather, I'd like to call them, and yeah, they're not having any jobs, and their unemployment rates are higher than it was previously. So mostly it's because of the pandemic. So before this whole pandemic struck, well, youth employment were still at a lower level than they'd been before the global financial crisis back in 2007 and 2008. So that's because during and after a recession, youth employment tends to recover much more slowly than overall employment. So school leavers and university graduates can miss out on valuable work experience. So a lot of these people, students, especially postgraduate students who just recently graduate, well, they are going to be stuck without any sort of jobs, and that is also of concern. And a lot of the government also, they're looking for ways to combat all of this, because right now with the pandemic going on, we have seen a decrease in the number of jobs out there, and people are losing their jobs. I mean, a lot of these jobs that they do study, a lot of these youth, especially, they study these certain degrees and all that, with that, getting the job in that specific field can be a hassle. It's not going to be easy as you think. And once, although even if the economy gets back to normal, it's going to be harder for a lot of these youth to compete with older and more experienced worker, as well as the next generation of school leavers and graduates. So right now, Mr. Verrick has been saying that youth unemployment has recovered slowly following a recession, because young people don't have the same work experience and access to networks that a lot of the older people have. This is going to mean that it essentially translates into the fact that it's going to be harder for them to compete for fewer jobs that are available after a crisis. So right now, with the crisis going on, well, there is problems with relations to that. So researchers have shown that graduating or leaving school during a recession can have a long financial hangover, because individuals arrive late on the first steps of the career ladder. So this just goes to show, according to economists at the University of Leicester and the University of Nottingham, well, each month of unemployment between the ages of 18 and 20 leads to a permanent income loss of 1.2% over the course of a career. So these are just, the talks of their discussing, how much a person can lose, how much money a person, an individual between the ages of 18 and 20 will be losing because of this whole pandemic situation. So Dr. Sarah Lemos, an economics lecturer at the University of Leicester, says that when young people spend time out of work, they lose their skills, confidence, and ability to reinsert themselves into the labor market and lag behind. So employers are, see that inability to get a job as a signal that other employers have been refusing that worker and assume that worker must not be productive enough to be hired. So naturally, the longer, a worker stays unemployed, the stronger the stigma gets and the harder it is to find a good job with good pay. So that's also of concern. That is a big problem because a lot of these youth, like I said, right now with the pandemic situation, a lot of people, I know as well personally, a lot of people have lost their jobs. And it is crazy because the job market isn't what it seems. Right now, there is a lot of competition. There's a lot of big fight going on because of that. People are struggling to get jobs. And the way I see it, the youth does not stand a chance without any experience, and they're all green. So what the situation, what's going to happen is a lot of these people who do have experience will be hired over these youth who do not have any sort of experience. So that's also a matter to regard as well. If you notice these kind of things, these are the kind of problems that we are facing right now all across, not only in the UK, but US, Australia, South Korea, Japan, Italy, Spain, France, and all these countries are facing these kind of problems. And it was especially significant in places like the US. There was a spike in number of people getting jobs, and then there's an increase in the number of people getting their jobs. But mostly everywhere, people have been losing. A lot of these children, especially youth, rather, I'd like to call them, have been unemployed, and that is of rising concern. So yeah, with that in mind, though, a lot of these young adults have been struggling to keep and hold one job together. So let's see, hopefully there will be better ways to fight this, and the government should, find different ways to actually not only pardon, but rather excuse all of this, because then, like I said earlier, there's going to be a stigma because people will think, okay, they didn't get a job for this many months, X number of months. Well, they must be a not so great employee, so we're not going to hire this person, and that's going to cause a lot of problem. And in the end, they will find it very difficult to get a good job or good pay. And with that, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Taking a look at your time, it is 4:20. Good evening.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right, we're talking about all things going on right now. And yeah, there's a lot of these issues. And, with the job market, relationships with job markets and all of that, there has been a concern. There's been a rising concern. A number of the youth right now is struggling. So these are just some of the things, that we're talking about today right here on Real Talk. And if you're wondering, what if you want to be part of the show or you want to hit me up, well, these are the numbers. Well, 07852-473-473. That's right. You can always feel free to hit me up and call me on those numbers. And there's a lot of these things going on right now, and the Home Secretary right now is under a lot of fire. So the police right now is feeling betrayed over vaccination priorities. This is what Preeti Patel is saying, and she is talking and with regards to some of the things that is going on right now with this. So officers feel like a deep sense of betrayal when it comes to this whole vaccination priority, and they say that they were not prioritized for the vaccination. This is what the Police Federation chairman has said, and they are feeling betrayed because at the end of the day, they are the people that are essential workers as well, because a lot of these people who are working in the task force, who are working as police forces, well, they also require the vaccine. They need to be prioritized as well. So John Apter said he pressed the Home Secretary to ensure officers were moved up the vaccine priority list. So ministers lobbied the vaccine advisory body, but Preeti Patel said the government had to accept its decision not to make police an exception. She praised the police for not flinching in the face of the pandemic, and she went on to say, Mr. Apter revealed at the annual conference of the Federation, which represents officers in England and Wales, was that he had held robust discussions about the vaccination of officers with Ms. Patel. And he said he'd been told police could be prioritized during the rollout, but the government's warm words became lame actions, because in the end, they didn't really do anything. It was just a lot of, there was a lot of gas, but no real substance to it. And at the conference, he went on to say that from the results, that is, my colleagues do feel a sense and a deep sense of betrayal. So the conference taking place online was shown a video of Devon and Cornwall police officers called Leanne, who said she was 26 and concerned about working alongside officers from all over the country at the G7 meeting, despite not being vaccinated. So in her speech, Ms. Patel said, we absolutely had to prioritize the vaccine rollout in line with the overriding risk factors of age and clinical vulnerability. So answer the questions from the officer. She said people were dying. We had terrible death rates in the country, and we had the elderly and vulnerable who were more in desperate need in comparison to the youth right now, in comparison to the police officers who don't really require it at the moment, is what she's trying to say. She's trying to hint at this, and she said the phenomenal vaccine rollout meant the officers would be vaccinated. So back in January, the Home Secretary had said there was a lot of work and taking place. There's a lot of work taking place to get the police and other frontline workers moved up the priority list, but the rollout continued on an age basis. So the order in which the vaccine program has progressed has been based on the advice of the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization. So right now they're saying, okay, the problem is at hand. What we are facing overall is that, a lot of the people are not, a lot of the workforce meaning officers and frontline workers are not getting their vaccines because they are not according to that particular age group. And in a way, if you look at it, that is fair, but at the same time, that is not really that quite of a solid answer to be giving the workforce, the force that is, very essential at this moment, helping with, with the situation going on. They are risking their lives every day. So I don't really get the logic behind all of this. But in the vaccination, began with people aged between 80 and over, as well as the clinically extremely vulnerable and some health and social care staff. So as the JCVI deemed that these groups were at greatest risks of death and serious illness. So in February, Professor Wei Shin Lim, the COVID-19 chair of the JCVI, said as occupation was not well recorded in the GP's records, running the vaccination program by people's jobs may have slowed down the whole program. So Policing Minister Kit Malthouse told a conference panel discussion, the government made the case strongly about police officers. So that's the problem. And when it comes to that regards, these people also require these vaccinations. It doesn't really matter their age because they are working in the front lines. There should be some kind of exemption for them because they are facing this vaccine without any sort of protection. So that is, that is with that regard, they have to also be considered. I mean, what is going on? And they went on to add, Policing Minister Kit Malthouse also went on to say, we did repeatedly make the case and make the request, but obviously the JCDI made the decision that they did. So from their point of view, it's a point of regret that we didn't manage to make our own point strongly enough. And it's unfortunate, for them to even be saying something like this, for these individuals who work in the front line to be saying something like this is rather disappointing on the part of the government as well. Priti Patel should know better. I mean, what are they even thinking? What's going on in their minds? We can never really know. I mean, looking at the situation right now, well, there's a lot of these things they're planning to do, but it looks like the police officers are not in the priority list at the moment. So Ms. Patel also reiterated her previous call for workers and forces, rather, to be quicker to release body-worn footage to counter misleading clips from the public posted on social media. Shane, you gotta understand, I'm reading all these things and saying it, but Priti Patel is on some next level stuff because, I mean, look, right now the country is facing their own problems, and that's understandable. You have to get the people vaccinated. You have to get a lot of the people over the certain age groups vaccinated, but also you got to take care of your people. Your people meaning the people who work for the government, for the country. These are the people that you need. These are the backbone of the country. These people are the people who are helping deployment rates of this whole rollout of the vaccines. And if you don't take care of them, well, there's going to be problems. They're going to be feeling betrayed. They're going to be feeling frustrated. And that frustration can lead to even more problems. So what is going up? Why are they not even doing this? It's crazy to even think, that they are not even taking care of the policing force and other frontline workers as well. So this is something that they have to make sure that they move forward with. They have to make sure that this becomes a priority as well. I mean, in my consideration, if you ask my 2 cents about it, and I know a lot of you might think I'm a terrible person, but I think we should, instead of the kids getting vaccinated and all these children between these young ages, we should get these frontline workers because they are more at risk in comparison to children. Because these frontline workers will have to face the virus threat. They have to be there. They have to be outside. They have to be dealing with a lot of other people as well. So the risks of them getting the coronavirus is way more higher. It's very significantly higher in comparison to the other people, to the normal, regular, average Joe, So this is something that they should also be looking into. I really don't get what the reasoning is and whether they're going to be doing it or not, but, we have to understand that this is something that they should consider. So let's hope and see. We can only know, only time can tell what the country will be planning. So these are, with these type of things that is going on, there's a lot of stuff also going out. And also, when you're talking about travel, well, the U.S. eases travel rules for 61 countries. But guess what? Who's not in that list? Well, we are. Yeah, the UK is not in that list of countries that is being, ruled out of their travel rules. So right now, the UK is facing a lot of this, because also the G7 is going to be happening. The summit is going to be happening in another week's time. So the US has eased their travel restrictions for many countries as the rollout of the coronavirus continues. And a lot of the vaccines rollout continuing. So the Public Health Agency updated its criteria on Monday, which saw 61 countries lowered from a level 4, that means avoid all travel rating. So countries such as France, Spain, Italy are now level 3, which means fully vaccinated passengers can go to these areas, but travelers from the US can visit the UK but must self-isolate. So because the US is on the UK's amber list, well, from the country have to isolate for 10 days on arrival. So most passengers from the UK are still banned from traveling to the US. So although the UK is listed as a level 3 by the US Centers for Disease Control, which is the CDC, and under presidential decree introduced last March, non-US citizens who have been in the UK in the past 14 days cannot enter the country unless a specific exemption applies. So the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that it has updated its criteria to better differentiate countries between with the severe outbreak situation from countries with sustained but controlled COVID-19 spread. So the CDC said the new criteria for a level 4 avoid all travel recommendation has changed from 100 cases per 100,000 to 500 cases per 100,000. So right now, the countries that saw their ratings lowered, in the U.S.'s list is Ecuador, the Philippines, South Africa, Canada, Mexico, Russia, Switzerland, Jordan, Denmark, Turkey, Ukraine, Honduras, and Hungary. So yeah, Japan has also saw its travel rating lowered to allow vaccinated passengers to enter into their countries. And despite travel in the run-up to the Tokyo Olympics in late July, on the 24th of May, the State Department has issued a warning against the country, that is Japan, citing a new wave of COVID-19 cases. So the CDC said it expects more countries to get lower ratings in the coming weeks. And it comes after the boost of all these airlines that offer UK-US flights. And Heathrow Airport issued a joint call for transatlantic travel corridor on Monday. So the group said it would be essential to igniting economic recovery in a statement, and urged Prime Minister Boris Johnson and President Joe Biden to discuss the possibility at the upcoming G7 meetings. So Shay Reese, the boss of the Virgin Atlantic, said on Monday, there is no reason for the U.S. to be absent from the UK's green list. This overly cautious approach fails to reap the benefits of a successful vaccine program in both the UK and the US. So adding to the, essentially adding the US to the UK's green list would remove the need for a quarantine on return to the UK. So passengers would, however, still need to have a proof of a negative test upon departure. So these are just some of the things that it doesn't really make sense, and the US wants to know. They need a reason behind all of this, and they're saying it's just causing a lot more hassle than necessary. Why not put us in the green list? Why do we have to quarantine? Is the question. When the UK in the US is not banned. Well, that's just some of the concerns right now. Like I said, the U.S. has lowered their ratings for a lot of these countries. That includes, like I mentioned earlier, Ecuador, the Philippines, South Africa, Canada, Mexico, Russia, Switzerland, Jordan, Denmark, Turkey, Ukraine, Honduras, and Hungary. So these are just some of the countries that were lowered in their list at the moment. So right now they are at a possible, they are lowered down from a level 4 to a level 3. So a lot of these countries are, facing a lot of these things. So let's see, how it goes. Hopefully the countries and the US and the UK can find an agreement on this. And the UK can put the US onto their green list. So that's very important right now, because there is going to be a problem with the G7 meeting. This is something that will also most probably be discussed and brought up on. Hopefully, they will find an alternative with regards to this, and they can find a different way to counter this. But let's see, we can only expect more in the future as we go. Hopefully after the G7 meeting, this will be discussed, and maybe possibly the US will fall on the UK's green list. But with the number of cases going in the US right now, we're not quite sure how that is going to happen. Even if they say, okay, before you come into the country, before departure, you will have to show proof of a negative test. But then there's still the possibility of you having the virus, and it'll take time. Viruses don't pop up the next day. It takes time. So it takes at least an incubation period of a week to 2 weeks for you to be even having the symptoms. So this is just a sign for all of that. So let's see how it goes if the US can fall into the UK's green list. I mean, I'm not hopeful for it, but let's see how it goes. Hopefully this doesn't cause any sort of tension. With the rising tensions that we have right now between the UK and the EU, we don't really need the tension when it comes to America. So yeah, with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. If you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you'll interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all things that is happening right now in the UK. And yeah, there's a lot of these things being discussed at the moment. And one of that is the government acted unlawfully over firms' 560,000 COVID contract. So, the government's acted unlawfully when it awarded a 560,000 contract to a firm run by former colleagues of Michael Gove and the Prime Minister's advisor, Dominic Cummings. This is what the High Court has ruled. So, there's also discussions with regards to that. And in case you guys are wondering, like I said, this is Real Talk with me, Nick. I'll be keeping you company all the way until 6, so make sure you come this way. The numbers 07852 473 473. Those are the magical numbers. You can always feel free to hit me up. And in case you guys are wondering what is going on, why is Nick talking like he's a little constipated? Well, it's not that I'm constipated. It's just that it is super, super freezing right here at the studio. So there's that feeling of coldness. So in case you guys are wondering, and hey, also don't forget, if you want to get in touch with us or you want to listen and carry us all the way, wherever you guys are traveling. Well, all you got to do is simple. Download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And with that being said, though, we are getting back to the story at hand. And that is how the government has acted very unlawfully with regards to this. And the government right now, Michael Gove, Mr. Gove has been talking about the cabinet officer. He's denied any kind of favoritism had been shown to the market research agency Public First. And the judge said a failure to consider other firms could be seen as suggesting a real damage and a real danger of a bias. So that's something we want to avoid with all regards to. And the Public First looked into public understanding of the coronavirus. And the campaigners took legal actions against Mr. Gove over the cabinet's office decisions to use the company following the start of the pandemic last year. So they also questioned the involvement of Mr. Dominic Cummings, who worked in Downing Street until he quit as Prime Minister's chief advisor last autumn. So lawyers for the Good Law Project argued that Mr. Cummings wanted focus group and communication support services to be given to Public First, whose founding partners were Rachel Wolf and James Frayne. So they want to know, why is it to these particular people why are we catering to them? So in 2011, Mr. Frayne became Director of Communications at the Department of Education, where he worked alongside Mr. Cummings, who was special advisor to Mr. Gove, the then Education Secretary. So Miss Wolf formerly worked as an advisor to Mr. Gove and for Mr. Cummings and co-wrote the Conservatives' 2019 general elections manifesto. So the government and Mr. Cummings disputed the Good Law Project's claims. So they were saying, there's a lot of these claims, and they were, disputing about this. And delivering her ruling, Miss Justice O'Farrell said the claimant is entitled to a declaration that the decision of the 5th of June 2022 award the contract to Public First gave a rise to apparent bias and was very unlawful. So she went on to say the defendant's failure to consider any other research agency by reference to experience, expertise, availability, or capacity would lead a fair-minded and informed observer to conclude that there was a real possibility or a real danger that the decision maker was biased. And she went on to say the fair-minded and informed observer would have appreciated that there was an urgent need or research through focus group on effective communications in response to the COVID-19 crisis, and that these research services were required immediately. So these are just, some of the arguments that they are doing. And Mr. Cummings had been uniquely placed, given his experience and expertise, to form a rapid view on which organization might be best to deliver and be able to deliver to those urgent requirements. And the High Court rejected two other claimants and their claims, saying that the government, they made against the government, essentially, by the Good Law Project. So the first was that the direct award of the contract to Public First was unnecessary because there were other firms who could potentially have done this particular work. And the second was that giving it a 6-month contract was disproportionate for the government's immediate needs, and that a shorter arrangement could have been followed by competitive progress or processes for a longer contract. So they want to know, what is going on? How come this happened? And why are we not, how come, they just selected this, they cherry picked this. This is what the question is. They want to know why this was cherry picked instead of the other organizations. Why this one in particular? And that's just causing a lot of problems. So in a witness statement, Mr. Cummings said that he said to the court, the country was facing an unprecedented national emergency. So thousands of lives were at stake and hundreds of billions of pounds were at stake. So the extra money spent on doubling the focus groups and polling was essentially irrelevant in those circumstances. So a few people did raise the question of how we could justify this as value for money, and they responded that this was not the normal world, and we were in a once-in-a-century pandemic, and many thousands of pounds have been and were trivial if it helped us save lives and minimize economic destruction. So the High Court ruling, and he went on to tweet that Mr. Cummings went on to tweet that when it became clear the Department of Health, Public Health England, and the Cabinet Office weren't gathering vital data, I acted urgently. This data immediately helped key decisions and saved lives. But the Good Project Director, Joe McGollum, said this is not a government for the public good. It is government for the good of friends of the Conservative Party. So they're saying, okay, listen, this is what is happening. What is going on is that we are not helping the government. We are not for the public, but rather for the people who are in these certain parties and who are, our associates or our acquaintances or friends. So this is the reason why, this is not going to be working out. So Labour's deputy leader, Angela Rayner, accused the government of acting immorally and unethically. So in the middle of a deadly pandemic, not only were those at the heart of the government giving out taxpayers' monies to their friends and associates, that they have wasted even more trying to cover it up. So they're saying, okay, this is the thing. The situation is, it calls for this kind of thing where, we were initially, what was happening was all the money is going to these people's friends and associates, but now more money is even spent on trying to cover up all of this. So one popular instance is the refurbishment, the flat refurbishment of Boris Johnson. So that's also one of these things that they are talking about. And with that regards, the public first person spokesperson said the company was deeply proud of the work we did in the early stages of the pandemic, which helped saved lives. So he added the judge rejected most of the Good Law Project's claims, not finding actual bias in the awarding of this work, and nor were any problems with the pace or the scale of the award. And the Cabinet Office went on to say, the judgment makes clear that there was no suggestion of actual bias and that the decisions to award the contract was not due to any personal or professional connection. So what is it about is the question, and there's been these talks with regards to something like this. It just causes into another more questions as we go along, and this is just something that is also concerning. And doctors, like I said, are being talked about all these things, all of these, not only people as well. When it comes to the taxpayers' monies. I mean, when you think about it, most of the taxpayers' monies are also used in this. So that's why they are trying to argue and say, okay, this is the thing. What is happening is there's a bias forming, and we are trying to prevent that bias. I mean, how can we have biases in a government? So you're telling me, okay, you will help only the people who will help you. I mean, you are in the government. That doesn't work like that. Maybe if you're friends or something like that, or if you have your own thing going on, then you can, selectively handpick and choose who you want to help. But when it comes to a whole government ruling a body of a nation like the United Kingdom, well, we have to make sure that, we support and help every sort of people. And we shouldn't have these kind of biases, because that's not going to work. It should be for the public more than anything. It's not for your friends. And we're not trying to look for, make acquaintances in this field. That's what they're trying to say. They're saying, hey, we need more research done on this. We need more inquiries. And this is one of the reasons why they are having a lot of these claims. And, people are trying to take legal action against this. I mean, it's understandable, with what is going on. The situation, like I said, is not at its greatest at the moment. Let's see, though, how it goes. Hopefully, they will find different ways to alter this. But with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful? I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking, you want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're writing? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts mainly, one, because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because
Very
you want
important,
cars, yeah.
very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. It is Relaks. You know, because this is where we're trying to relax. We're trying to have a good time, and at the same time, we're trying to keep it real with all things that is going on across the world. And right now, underwater avalanches have continued for 2 days. In case you guys are wondering, what is this whole underwater avalanche? Well, scientists are reporting what they say is the longest sediment avalanche yet measured in action. Right now, where it's happening, well, it is happening off the coast of Western Australia. So yeah, Western Africa rather. And the cases right now is there's been this avalanche in a deep canyon leading away from the mouth of the Congo River. So something in excess of a cubic kilometer of sand and mud descended into the deep. So this colossal, flow kept moving from 2 whole days and ran out for more than 1,100 kilometers across the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. So what is this going on? I mean, what caused this avalanche? Was it the Loch Ness Monster? I don't even know. I mean, okay, the Loch Ness Monster is a far stretch. It's supposed to, what are you doing in Africa is the real question. But the event would have gone unrecorded, though, were it not for the fact that the slides broke 2 submarine telecommunication cables, slowing the internet and other data traffic between Nigeria and South Africa in the process. And also because of the prescient action of researchers who would line the length of the Congo Canyon with instruments capable of measuring current and sediment velocities. And, these are just, it would have gone undiscovered, essentially. And in the end, the internet came to save the day. I mean, apart from memes, these kind of things also happens, where because of this, it was a pure coincidence, rather, when something like this happened. And, they went on to say, Professor Peter Towling from Durham University of UK went on to say that we had a series of oceanographic moorings that were hit by the event, which broke them from their seafloor across the anchors. So they stopped up to send us an email. So this thing actually gradually got faster and faster, and because it erodes in the seabed as it goes, it picks up sand and mud, which makes the flow denser and even quicker. So it has the positive feedback where it can build and build and build. And these underwater avalanches, so more properly called a turbidity current, was initiated on the 14th of January last year. So it's only being reported now because scientists need more time to recover the sensors and fully analyze their data. So the team says 2 factors combined to prime and then trigger the prodigious flows. So the first was an exceptionally large flood along the Congo River in late December 2019, and a 1 in a 50-year occurrence. This delivered the very, very huge and vast quantities of sand and mud to the head of the underwater canyon. But this was still 2 weeks before the slide. So what followed in January, however, were some very unusual big spring tides. So, with regards to all this, the turbidity and all of that, you can see that these things were happening. And if you look at the images, especially with how, this whole situation occurred, it's crazy, to look at, because you can see that because of this avalanche, a lot of mud, a lot of sand and water did go to the sea and spread to the sea. So this is just, some of the things that they are doing with relation to all these things. And it's just crazy, how technology is further progressing in a pace where we can't even, begin to fathom, can't even begin to imagine how to keep up with all of this. So, with that regards, though, there's a lot of these things going on right now. And it's just a lot of big problems as well. And talking about all these things, also, there's also other cases going on, with avalanches and water. We're talking about river pollution in Wales. That's right. Farmers are facing 6-figure sums to comply. And there is big problems with that regards. So some farmers are actually, in this situation where they will be having to face out a 6-figure sum to comply with new rules aimed at tackling river pollution, is claimed. So Andrew Jones, who lives on a family farm near Lapinter in Ceredigion, said many farmers would leave the industry. The Welsh government has designated the whole of Wales a nitrate vulnerable zone and introduced stricter rules on the storage and spread of these slurries. So members of the Senate are currently debating the regulations, and opposition parties have described the new rules as excessive, but previous efforts to see them scrapped have been failed. So environmental and fishing groups have previously welcomed the new rules, and the control of these agricultural pollution regulations are also being introduced in phased, over the next 3 years. They're phasing these things, and they're gradually bringing it up in the next couple of years, in the next 3 years, after which farmers face being penalized. So previously, only 2.4% of land of areas of Wales was designated a nitrate vulnerable zone or NVZ. But right now, farms that come under the scope of the new regulation will have to comply fully with the new rules on storage and spread of all of these slurries. So with that regards, though, there is also these kind of issues, like I said, going on right now. And with the regards to the slurries and all that, people will be also penalized, and that is also of concern and a big problem right now. And with that regard, though, like I said, farmers are under this whole problem right now. And these include, all the things that farmers will have to follow will include upgrading storage facilities to a capacity of at least 5 months. That's right. So that's at least a capacity of 5 months. They should be able to store these things, and they also need to be covered to reduce the amount of rain that can fall into the slurry, which increases its volume. So the new rules are going to be applied. So there will be periods between August and January when spreading slurry will be banned. So if new regulations were not met, and the farmers are going to be facing a lot of these losses as well, and they'll be losing part or all of their basic payment. So the basic payment scheme is the main source of direct farm support payments in Wales. So Mr. Jones said he had already spent £2,000 almost applying for a planning permission to erect a shed to cover the slurry store, but those costs could rise up considerably. So that right now what they're saying is, okay, what's going to happen is going to be increasing to a point of even possibly a six-figure sum. So that's going to be a very big concern, a very big problem. So where that money is going to come from at this stage, people can't really tell you, but we have no choice because the penalties are just so high. So I can see farmers leaving the industry and a change in farming where farms will get bigger with even larger dairy units. So I think we are in a danger of losing these smaller family farms. And if farmers have no successions, it is not worth the money to try and comply with these new rules, and it will be easier to sell up. And that's a very sad thing to even be saying out loud when you think about it. It's very unfortunate how, they're going to be facing these kind of problems. So, because when you come back down to it, there are a lot of these small farms as well. And these small farms also will require a successor, an heir, if you would like to say it. So if they don't have an heir, what's the whole point of all of this and building all of this? So they might as well just sell up, close shop and sell up. And that is very, very sad in that way. It's very unfortunate. And Mr. Jones also said the rules would make things worse in terms of agricultural pollution. And restricting the spreading months will put more pressure on stores. And come January, all the tankers in the area will be out trying to get rid of their slurry, he explained. So if we then have heavy rain, we will have more pollution. So that's, with that regard, it is also a big problem. So the farmer unions right now have described the measures as draconian and said the costs of upgrading facilities could be too much for some smaller farmers. I mean, when you think about it, it's a six-figure amount from almost £2,000 to a six-figure amount. That's just crazy money right there. And that's not a lot of money a lot of these farmers can be able to pay. So in a debate taking place in the Senate, the Welsh Conservatives are calling for an urgent review of the new regulations. And the Welsh government said there have been more than 3 pollution incidents per week in the past few years, adding agricultural pollution was affecting water quality across the whole of Wales. So a spokesperson said rules would enable the industry to demonstrate the sustainable nature of food production, and added the Welsh government was providing financial assistance and will continue to provide advice and guidance throughout the implementation phase and beyond. So this is, just some of the things that they are saying that they might hopefully get into, and they will do. But it's an unfortunate state of events, to be seeing that, like I said, farmers will reach that point where they will start quitting, and it's very, very sad situation for that to even be happening. I mean, we can't afford to lose farmers. What with the whole trade deal with Australia right now, there's going to be more competition with that regards. So I don't really get how the government, especially the Welsh government, is going to be handle this kind of losses. And I feel like these penalties are more unreasonable than anything, because if you think about it, if you lose farmers, that's the farmers, I'd like to think are, what help bring the food in and all of that. And they're very, very, in other words, very underrated, when it comes to these kind of jobs, because there's not that many people who want to be farmers anymore. And when you are pushing the people who are farmers away, and you're making them, you're stigmatizing them, and you're making things, alienating them, well, there's going to be a problem, and people are going to be quitting these kind of things, and they're going to give up on even becoming farmers. And that is very, very sad situation. We should something right now. We have to prevent. So I don't really get what their whole point is and what their actual aim and goal about this whole thing is. Although for the short term, it does look like a good idea for them to penalize all this and to incur proper behavior. But at the same time, is it really worth all of that? I mean, to be losing farmer hands is another big problem. Can we afford to lose our farmers? I mean, you guys tell me, you hit me up and let me know. 07852-473-473. Those are the numbers. And if you want to be a part of the show, all you got to do is simply call us up or WhatsApp us. And also don't forget, you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to carry us all day, every day. And also don't forget to check us out on our social media pages. We're pretty big on Facebook and Instagram. We're also big on YouTube as well. So subscribe, like, and follow. Make sure you guys do that. And with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will definitely be right back after this. And taking a look at your time right now, it is 5:12. Good evening.
Climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. I
mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. right here on Real Talk. Where we're trying to keep it real 100% all day, every single day. That's right. If you want to be part of the show, you know the numbers. I've been repeating it again and again, but don't ever forget them. It is 07852-473-473. That's right. You can always feel free to call us up and let us know what your thoughts are on the matters that we're talking about today, with regards to what is going on right now across the UK and across the world. Well, make sure hit me up and let me know what your thoughts are. And also, don't forget to check us out on our social media pages. We're pretty big on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, follow. Make sure you click those buttons. So yeah, we're talking about all things going on right now in the UK with regards to the coronavirus and the issues with the Northern Ireland Sea, the Irish Sea, and all of that. I mean, this shows, there's a lot of talks going on right now. So right now in the G7, what Biden is warning the UK and EU is that they don't want to put peril to the Northern Ireland peace. And this is something, that they will be discussing in the G7 summit as well, the upcoming G7 summit, which is going to be happening this coming Friday. So Joe Biden has deep concerns that a UK-EU trade row could endanger peace in Northern Ireland. And his national security advisor has recently spoken about this. So the U.S. president will, tell fellow leaders at this week's G7 summit that gains since the Good Friday Agreement must be protected. This is what Jake Sullivan has said. And the UK and the EU are at the loggerheads, over checks on goods going between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So if no compromise is reached, though, there are fears of potential violence in Northern Ireland. And that's something that we want to avoid as much as possible. And Mr. Sullivan's comments also come as the UK is trying to secure a free trade deal with the US. And he insisted he was not trying to negotiate in public or issue a warning to Boris Johnson's government, but merely stating how the president feels about this issue. So the UK and EU are in talks over simplifying the Northern Ireland Protocol, which sets up a post-Brexit trade deal border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain, and that is essentially England, Scotland, and Wales in Scotland and Wales, in order to prevent UK and in order to prevent the goods checks along the Irish land border. So some checks are taking place on British goods going to Northern Ireland, causing some disruption to the food supplies and the online deliveries. So right now, unionists are strongly opposed to this, and they're against this, and they're opposed to this because they don't want Northern Ireland to be treated differently to the rest of the UK. So Sinn Féin, the SDLP, and the Alliance have said that there are problems with the protocol, but have argued that the EU and the UK must ensure its rigorous implementation. And one loyalist group has written to Mr. Boris Johnson to withdraw support for the Good Friday Agreement signed in 1998 following heavy involvement by the U.S., which helped bring an end to all these troubles. So Biden's advisor, like I said, Jake Sullivan, was talking about all these gains, and they're saying, this must be protected. The Good Friday Agreement should be protected, ever since it was formed back in 1998. So in a recent interview, North American editor John Sopel, Mr. Sullivan said the success of or failure of the Northern Ireland Protocol was critical to ensuring that the spirit, promise, and future of the Good Friday Agreement is definitely protected. And they went on to continue, and they said, that they were urging a lot of the UK and the EU to work out their problems and, just settle their differences essentially and work out the specifics and find a way to proceed that works for both of them, adding, but whatever way they find to proceed must at its core fundamentally protect the gains of the Good Friday Agreement and not imperil it. And that was the message President Joe Biden will send at the G7 summit, which runs from Friday to Sunday in the Caribous Bay, Cornwall. And this is what Jake Sullivan, President Joe Biden's advisor, went on to say. What were these troubles? So the conflict in Northern Ireland, known as the Troubles, lasted 30 years from the late of 1960s and cost the lives of more than 3,500 people. So Northern Ireland was created in 1921 and remained part of the UK while the rest of Ireland became an independent state. So this created a split in the population between the Unionists, who were mainly Protestants and were happy to stay in the UK, and nationalists, who were predominantly Catholics and wanted to join the new Irish state. So many Catholics faced discrimination in jobs and housings, and in the late 1960s began protests which were met with the crackdown for the Northern Ireland government and led to the UK government to deploy troops in 1969. So they were largely welcome, but later armed groups from both sides, like the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, and the Ulster Defense Association, or the UDA, began carrying out bombings and shootings. So peace talks started back in the early 1990s and culminated, this essentially ended up in the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. So this ended up, this essentially what caused the end to all of the turmoil and all of this, problem and violence in the Northern Ireland, the state of Northern Ireland. So right now, these issues include, right now there's been a lot of these issues that they are going to be talking about also. Like I said earlier, the G7 summit, they're going to be talking about all this. So Joe Biden will be discussing about all these things related to this. And the issues also that they will be tackling will be climate change and post-pandemic recovery that are set to dominate the meeting of these leaders of most of the world's biggest economies. So these are the advanced economies of the world. And if you're wondering, well, China is not a part of them, and that includes Russia as well. They're not in this G7. It's mostly got to do with the countries like Canada. We got the US, the UK, we got Japan, and we got all Italy, Germany, France, and all these countries that are involved in this. So these are just some of the countries in these issues, including climate change. They're going to be talking about that and the post-pandemic changes in the country as well. So these are just some of the things that they will be talking about in the G7 summit discussion. So the G7 summit also comes as the UK is keen to reach free trade deals with other countries, including the US, as it readjusts its economy following the Brexit situation. So that following the Brexit situation and after this whole Brexit scene, well, this is when they're going to be talking about free trade deals as well. And this also as well, the UK will be doing all of these things. So Mr. Sullivan said, I'm not intending to send any kind of warning or any sort of warnings, but our concern on Northern Ireland does run deep. That is simply a statement of principle. So that's how the president feels about this issue. So what it does to the UK-US free trade agreement, I don't want to sit here and negotiate in public or make some claims or threats. So we want to make sure that this works, that the US, the UK, and Ireland all have done, in addition to key parties in Northern Ireland, has got to be honored and respected and protected as we go forward. So a senior UK government source said the government was positive about President Biden's agreement with Northern Ireland and the peace process, saying, we welcome the balanced tones from the U.S. So right now, Jake Sullivan was very keen to impress, a lot of people in the administrations about this whole situation, and they want to talk about these things. So it's just something that will be discussed upon in the G7 summit as it comes by. Hopefully by the time Friday comes, these things will be brought up in addition to the post-recovery of the pandemic, post-recovery, as well as climate change. So the UK has pushed back the full implementations of checks on supermarkets, goods, and parcels traveling from Britain to Northern Ireland to ease disruption to the supplies. So this has prompted the EU to accuse the UK of undermining the Northern Ireland Protocol and begin legal action. So the next phase of control on chilled meat products, including sausages and mince, is due to begin on the 1st of July. They're going to be talking about all these things. There's going to be problems. So you can expect to enjoy these things, but then after a couple of weeks, there will be changes with regards to this. And the UK's Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, is meeting his EU counterpart, Maros Sefcovic, in London to discuss ways to reduce the trade disruption. So he has urged the EU to show common sense, but Mr. Sefcovic has warned against quick fixes to border issues. So these are just some of the things that is plaguing the country right now, and they're looking for ways to fight this, and there might be hopefully alternative ways that they can deal with this particular problem at hand. So this is just something that is building up on. Hopefully these discussions will involve a peace. They will be involving like a lot of negotiations and peace talks with regards to this. Hopefully this is something that we can look forward to as the G7 summit will descend upon us. This is something to look forward to by the end of this week. Let's see how it goes. But with that being said, we are going to be taking a quick break before we come into the final stretch of the show. Taking a look at your time, it is 5:30. Good evening.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful? I mean, hey, you can you can always have something up in your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts mainly, one, because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay.
They're
I mean, yeah,
nice.
that's very important, right? Because
Very
you want
important, yeah.
cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up in your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to the show. This is Relax Radio, Relaks, with me, Nick, keeping you company and chilling in the studio because sometimes you just need a little bit of time where you just relax and take it easy, and that's what we're trying to do right here at Relax Radio. That's right. We're trying to keep you going on with the current affairs that is happening across the globe. And yeah, one of these things that we were discussing along in the show is the G7 unit right now, the G7 summit that is going to be happening. And the issues that are rising right now. And there has been also other issues with regards to all the things that is going on. If you think about it, the situation, like I said, is getting tighter, and there is big problems going on with the UK and other parts of the Northern Ireland as well. So let's see what is going on with all of that. And right now, 4 numbers to look for ahead of the 21st of June decision. So this is with regards to the lockdown situation in the country. In case you guys are wondering, that is something that we can be looking forward to. So the government faces a difficult choice in the next few days. So many people are desperate to see they want to see them back to normality. They want to see everything get back to normal. And, the country getting back to normalcy is something of great precedence, and this is what we need at the moment. And they were promised by the final stage of the government's roadmap to lifting lockdown. But ministers always said 21st of June was not set in stone. It wasn't a permanent fix. They didn't promise okay, this is a 100% guarantee. This is something that could change, and it could be affected by changes in the pandemic, including the emergence of these new variants. So what will they be weighing as they make their final decision? Well, here are the 4 key numbers to watch out for in the coming days. So the number of people in the hospitals. So there are just under 1,000 people with coronavirus in the hospitals in the UK, up about 5% from a low point a week ago. So that's far below the normal peak of 40,000 people in January. And the NHS providers say that the people who are going in aren't necessarily ill as they were in early waves. So they are younger or don't require intensive care as much, and they're coming out sooner. So that means this wave is different and better than previous ones, but eventually rising admissions will mount up. So in 2 parts of the UK that are the first into this third wave, the northwest of Scotland and England, the number of people in hospitals with coronavirus is rising faster than the rest of the UK right now. Like I said, the cases are going crazy. It is becoming the number has been increasing. There's been a steady increment in the number of cases right now in the month of June. So how far and how fast this trend develops depends on how fast infections are rising and how likely you are to get seriously sick with the new variant. So this is with regards to the new variant right there and the speed of rising infections. So that is number 2. The number 1, like I said, the number of people in hospitals, the number of cases, the number of admissions. Number 2 is the speed of the rising of infections. So the quickness of how much people are getting, the transmissibility of all this, and how many rising cases are coming. So Health Secretary Matt Hancock told Parliament on Tuesday that the main type of coronavirus in the UK right now is known and identified as the Delta variant, which was initially discovered in India, is at least 40 times, that is right, that is 40% more transmissible than the versions that sparked the winter wave. And the Alpha variant that was seen back in Kent. So that is called the Kent variant right there. And the Delta variant takes over. The infections are on the rise. And so right now, the Delta variant is taking over. There are a number of cases. There are more and more cases. And because of that, with that regards, though, you can see that right now we'll have to look for different alternative ways to combat this. And last week, the Office for National Statistics, or the ONS, suggested that UK infections had risen by up to 60% in a single week. So in one single week, well, we've been having a lot of cases, and that is also a big concern and big problem if you think about it. With all of that regards, there is, big concern, and there's been underlying issues because of that. So right now we are, treading over very cautious. We're trying to be cautious as much as possible, but we don't really know the situation until we get the hang of what is going on. And the UK virus levels have been rising, though. So when you look at data, all of that, by the time, the 25th of January, we had the most number of cases. And after that, it was mostly a drop after January. Between February to March and April, well, it was mostly a drop. But then, there was a complete drop by between April and towards the last week of May. But now we are seeing cases rising up again slowly. There is a slow increment. So if that growth rate remains steady or picks up, it suggests that the cases will rise pretty quickly if and when society reopens any further. So we'll learn all of these things back next in the coming Friday. But rising infections on their own aren't reason to extend lockdowns. The government's key test is whether rising infections risk a surge in hospitalizations, which would put unsustainable pressure on the NHS, and that also depends on your chances of getting seriously ill if you catch the coronavirus. So number 3 is the chance of becoming seriously ill if you are infected. So number 1, like I said, we go back to the cases. Number 1 is the number of people in the hospital, so number of admissions in the hospitals. And then number 2 is the rising of cases, the spread of the virus. And number 3 becomes the chance of becoming very seriously ill. That is much harder to predict, and that's something very difficult. We can't really predict that at this moment or space in time. So that now we can't predict that it was in the first or second waves. So scientists could predict what proportion of cases would be needing treatment. But that's because, vaccines do reduce your chance of getting ill. And if you get seriously ill, you get infected with any of these variants, well, the chances of you getting seriously ill are pretty reduced. It isn't as much as you'd like to think about it. But we've already seen, that while people who've had double jabs make up more than 40% of the population, they make up fewer than 5% of people who've been admitted to hospitals with the Delta variant. So it does look like it takes 2 doses before someone gets high levels of protection from that variant. So there's a race on. So the double jab as many people as possible before the virus spreads enough to find the vulnerable or to put pressure on the NHS. So this is just some of the things that they want to do. They're saying is right now we should make sure that more and more people get their double jabs instead of just a single vaccine. So the number 4 is the number of people who have been fully vaccinated. That's right. So more than 50% of adults have been given the best protection possible. So 2 doses of the vaccine, that's still a way ahead of herd immunity. Even if you add in people who have spent immunity from having had the coronavirus in the past, say each person infected would on average pass the virus on to 6 other people in a fully open society that hasn't seen the virus before. Then 5 out of these 6 people, not just 5 out of 6 adults, would need to be able to fight off the virus. So in that number, hypothetically, if you think about it, if you are in a room and 6 people around you can infect 6 people, well, out of that 6, at least 5 need to have protection. So we don't see a rise in spread. So then we can, that's where we can fight off this virus. That's where we can have something called a herd immunity. So we're not there yet. It's possible that the threshold is higher as the Delta could be more infectious than originally imagined. But every person vaccinated helps to slow the spread of this virus. And the final one is, predicting the future. Right now, we don't really know what the future holds in store for us. We don't really know how we can combat this and what way we can fight this. So to predict what rising infections will mean for the NHS, you need to know how fast these cases will rise and how many cases will get really sick. So we don't really know either figures. Right now, we don't really know a substantial number. We know that there is a significant amount of people, but there is no precise figure as of yet. So probably it won't be until the 14th of June. So at a rough time estimate doesn't help. So the last time the government modelers made their forecast, the difference between 40% more transmission and the 50% more transmission, it's a difference that's, it just shows there's such a big difference with regards to that. We didn't expect the first wave compared to the second wave of how, it's going to be. Most of these statistical numbers, it just figures on a scale. When it comes to real life events like this, we don't really know the scale of how fast this thing can spread. And then to know what to do about the rising cases, you need to predict what effect any change to the rules might have on spread. So it's uncertain. It's uncertainty piled on uncertainty. So right now what we're having is a whole lot of uncertainty. So to know the cost of that action, you need to know what the effect of another of these few weeks of being shut or trading at a loss would do to the business that are desperate to open up. So it's a mammoth task. It is a huge, gigantic task, and one that will require some, a lot of old-fashioned political judgment, as well as high-tech epidemiological models as well. We need these epidemiological models so we can find to a point where we know, okay, this is how it's going to spread. This is how much virus there's going to be, and it's from there we can move on forward. So these are all that matters right now. These are the key points, rather, that are discussing, the 4 numbers to look ahead of the 21st of June decision. So this is something that will matter by the time the 21st of June hits, these are the factors that will be weighed in and will be considered, as we move along. So let's see, how it goes. Hopefully they can find and predict a way to counter all of these things. But, we can always keep your fingers crossed. And with that, we're going to be taking one final break before we come back for the final few moments of the show. Taking a look at your time, it is 5:46. Good evening.
Climb Mount Everest. That's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. Okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to Relax Radio, Relaks, with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. And yeah, we're talking about, in the final stretch of the show, how the EU says patience is wearing thin with the UK in the Northern Ireland border check dispute. So yeah, the EU is saying that its patience is wearing very thin right now. There is a lot of these issues with regards to all of these things. Also, these talks, with like I said, with the EU right now, there's a lot of these talks going on, and with that regard, right now, there's been a lot of these talks going on, and yeah, that's what I was telling you about. Like when you think about all these things in relation to all of this, you can think of the fact that right now the EU and the UK are at odds with each other, and there is a lot of there's a lot of these troubles going on, and the UK and the EU are in talks aimed at avoiding a trade war over Northern Ireland border checks. So exports of these sausages and other chilled meats from Great Britain to Northern Ireland will effectively be banned at the end of the month. So the UK is ready to ignore the ban to prevent further disruption. So the top EU officials also are getting into this, and they're saying Maros Sefcovic warned about tariffs and taxes on imports could be imposed if that happens. So speaking after a meeting with the UK's Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, Mr. Sefcovic said he was positive we can find a solution where there will be and there is a way. So essentially what they're trying to say is, where there's a will, there's going to be definitely a way. But he added, but our patience is running very, very thin, and therefore we have to assess all options we have at our disposal. So this could be including also, legal actions as well with that regard, and whether it could be arbitration or retaliatory with trade measures such as tariffs. This is, some of the things that they will be doing and they will be looking onto, as they go on ahead with all these things. But like I said, there is a lot of, right now there is a lot of these issues with the trading issues as well. The EU says they are having their talks with the UK, and it is wearing very thin, and it is running really dry. And they're saying, right now with the issues going on, there is a lot of these talks, and hopefully we can avoid some sort of legal mitigation. Hopefully we can find some way that we have common ground. And Mr. Maros also went on to say that he said trust had to be restored between the two sides, and after the UK had broken the terms of the 2019 Northern Ireland Protocol. So this is just, some of this that is of interest, and they're saying the UK has broken the protocol, and the UK has held back from carrying out full checks on supermarket goods and parcels moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, prompting the EU to accuse the UK of undermining the protocol and to begin legal proceedings. So the UK sources close to the negotiations said nobody wants to get into a trade war or anything close to it. So it was much better to find agreement ways forwards. So to find agreed ways forwards, this is what they have to do. And the people in Northern Ireland want solutions, not threats. They don't want problems. They want solutions. They want better. They want to gain something from this, not lose as much as they think. So unfortunately, though, that right now we have got to be living in an atmosphere where there are going to be threats. So Mr. Sefcovic said, the vice president of the European Commission said, today I can say we are at a crossroads in our relationships with the UK. And if the UK were to take further unilateral actions in the coming weeks, the EU will not shy in acting swiftly, firmly, and resolutely to ensure the UK abides by its international obligations. So they're saying is they're not going to be afraid to cause problems. They're not afraid of another tension between the UK and the EU as it is right now. There are a lot of these tensions brewing up right now. So he went on to say the EU had offered a temporary solution to the chilled meats row, the issue with the chilled meats, well, ahead of the comprehensive trade deal. But he said the UK was not prepared to accept it because it would involve signing up to the EU food standards. And he went on to say, ideology prevails over what is good for the people of Northern Ireland. And speaking after his meeting with Mr. Sefcovic, Lord Frost said the protocol was being implemented in a way which is causing disruption in Northern Ireland. And we had some pretty frank and honest discussions about that situation. So there aren't many, there weren't many breakthroughs that were any breakdowns either. And we're going to have to carry on talking like this. This is what they're saying. So Great Britain no longer follow EU rules, but Northern Ireland does because it shares a land border with the Republic of Ireland, an EU member. So EU food and safety rules do not apply and do not allow chilled food and meat products to enter its market from non-members like the UK. So frozen meat is not covered by this rule. So in January, the two sides agreed a 6-month grace period to allow companies to set up alternative supply chains, but that runs out at the end of June. So hey, you can enjoy your chilled meat, you can enjoy your sausages, your nuggets, but after this particular time, well, you can expect there is going to be issues. You're not going to be receiving any of the things that you expect, any of these chilled meats as well. This is the whole point with the row between these two, between the UK and the EU. So Lord Frost is saying the EU will and was insisting that the two sides, they cooperate and the protocol in an extremely purist way. And he said he did not see any problem with continuing to allow food exports of chilled meats. The problem is the UK doesn't want to fall under that standards. The issue is the UK doesn't want to fall under their, the power of the EU. And this is something they want to prevent. And because of this, they are doing their own decisions as well. And they have been in clear breach of the Good Friday Protocol. And they went on to say, Mr. Sefcovic also went on to say, and Lord Frost also went on to say that we don't see what the risk is caused to the Northern Ireland if chilled meats are imported there from Great Britain. So what are these impacts? Well, this is just very big impacts right now. A lot of these countries, a lot of this, involving these rows, there's going to be issues when it comes to importing chilled meats and food. So you will be missing your privileges, essentially you will not be having sausages or nuggets anymore in the future, in the coming after 3 weeks. That's all going to stop because of the grace period that was given. It's going to expire, and that is going to be causing problems. So there's been a lot of disagreements, other disagreements over the protocol, which was meant to prevent the return of hard borders in Northern Ireland, include medicine supplies, that's right, which are subject to post-Brexit red tape. So medicines made in Great Britain have to be licensed separately for use on the islands of Ireland and undergo separate safety inspections before being released for patients. So essentially, that's a whole lot of work right there. And that is of regards, that's just a big problem. And people want to know, okay, why is this not happening? Why do we have to do it like this? Why can we not just, get medicines as well? So what's going to happen is going to be labor. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to be very costly, and it's going to be, using a lot of labor as well. So they're trying to prevent all of these things. These are the things that will happen once this comes into full effect. So Mr. Sefcovic also said the EU stood ready to amend its laws to ensure the supply of medicines when a grace period ends at the end of 2021. So the progress has already been made on changing the rules to allow the guide dogs to enter Northern Ireland from Great Britain. The two sides have said all this, and Northern Ireland's Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill, who also took part in the meeting, challenged the UK's government to honor its commitment on the Brexit protocol. So European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said she will also raise Northern Ireland's issue with Prime Minister Boris Johnson at this weekend's G7 summit in Cornwall. So yeah, this whole discussion, there's going to be more talks on this regarding this, hopefully in the next coming of days. By the time end of the week, that is when they will come to a conclusion. Hopefully they will come to an end with regards to this particular matter. But with that being said, it is about that time of the day for me to head on out of here. But don't worry, I'll be here tomorrow. You guys can catch me again. Same time, same place. That is 3 to 6. And my name is Nick, and I'm out of here. Peace and much